Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Ain't Dying for This, a community for Black women demanding our collective liberation through radically soft living. So this week, we are having a conversation with Joquina Reed about decolonizing your life as liberation. And what you will probably notice is that I'm back in my house. So for 2 episodes in a row, we did a studio session with Fatima Mann, and then we also were on retreat in Colombia last week, outside on the rooftop. Y'all heard outside. Yes, y'all heard a lot of wind, a lot of water from the pool. So I will drop the surprise now that Brittany is actually going to come back to talk to us again next Thursday to make sure that you could hear everything that she said, because she said a lot of very important things. It was a great conversation in person, but we want to make sure that those of you who are watching virtually have the opportunity to benefit from that conversation. And speaking of benefiting from the conversation, please tag a Black woman who you feel might benefit from this conversation with Joquina Reed about decolonizing your life as liberation. And as always, we would love to read in the chat where it is that you are listening in from. I see some posts coming in right now. I think, hold on 1 second. All right, we got Missy here. Missy said happy Hers Day. I really love that. Happy Hers Day.
Okay. You know, we love a good pun.
I know. We absolutely love that. So I know that there are people who have joined. Again, if there are folks who you think, Black women that you believe might benefit from this conversation, tag them in the comments. And of course, like I said before, we want to know where it is that you're listening from. So we have someone who's listening from Charlotte, Central Florida, Atlanta. I'm going to Atlanta this weekend.
Okay, hot
Atlanta. You know, jump in the DMs. Atlanta. And then we have Jennifer in DC. Amazing. So good to know that we're live. Y'all can see and hear us. Okay, Connecticut. So I would love to go ahead and jump into the conversation. So I am really excited to have this conversation with you today, Joquina. With every guest that I have on this show, I have a vibe session with them. And let me tell y'all, bonnets
were worn.
Bonnets were worn. That is the thing that I'll say. Cynthia, isn't it? Her hair is gorgeous. I love your. I'm so distracted by it because the colors are popping. The
colors are open and available. You know, this is what we need to start telling
people. I love your hair so much. It's really distracting me because it's so beautiful. But yes, like during our vibe conversation, it just felt like we had known each other forever. Bonnets were worn. It felt very comfortable, which I normally feel really comfortable on the phone with Black women anyway. Like I am famous for coming to a call with a bonnet on. So I'm sure there's somebody who's listening who's probably seen me with a bonnet on the call. And if you have, it's okay to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say that you have. But I'm so honored to have you here as a guest on the show to talk about your own journey with decolonizing your life as liberation, and really just helping other Black women to understand how they might do the same, as well as people who claim to be allies and advocates of Black women, how it is that they can show up for Black women as well. So I want to hand it over to you to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience and share some acknowledgments.
Well, let me just say this. I believe it is the great philosopher, um, oh gosh, his is Lil Wayne's name Dwayne Carter? Yeah, Dwayne Carter, who says,
Girl, no.
no, Riley from the Boondocks, real recognize real.
Really, yes, yes.
Can I
Mm-hmm.
cuss on your show, girl? Can I cuss?
Yeah,
Did you?
you can. Yes. I
Well,
love
yeah.
it.
So Riley says real recognize real, and so that's part of why the first call, the vibe check, the vibes were vibing, because our the values are aligned, but also I really do believe that there's something about that ancestral connection. You know what I'm saying? We all belong to each other, is what I say for people across the diaspora. You know, once you make space in your life for seeing that. Okay, so introducing myself. My name is Joquina Reed. Everybody calls me Kina. Real G's move in silence like lasagna. So we're about to have a real G conversation. But that's where I got Lil Wayne from, the little G, the G
Got
line. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't take this moment to acknowledge that I am living as an uninvited guest on the traditional territory of the Choctaw, formerly the now extinct Beluga nations of First People, who were forcibly removed from this land due to
it.
policies like the United States Indian Removal Act of 1830, the 1831 Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek. I wouldn't be me if I didn't acknowledge that I currently live in a state that owes its manifestation not only in part to the genocidal projects that continue to violate Indigenous and Native people, but also in part to formerly enslaved people here and abroad who labor and toil for my freedom, right? And then lastly, I just want to acknowledge that today in all parts of the world, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, ongoing humanitarian crises have claimed over 5 million lives since 1998. That's roughly about 45,000 deaths every month. We are witnessing in our lifetime at least the loss of 40,000 people in Gaza, right? And that there are at least 105 families, right, in Israeli families, American families, who have not seen their loved ones, and their loved ones have not been accounted for since last October. And so I wouldn't be who I am, and I don't think we can have the decolonization conversation without recognizing all the ways in which colonial violence is operating even right now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. And with that being said, my name is Joquina Reed. I am the founding steward of J Reed Consulting. It is a organization and professional wellness development firm. I am dedicated to people embodying diversity, equity, inclusion with a justice emphasis. Um, I am the creator behind Divesting from Whiteness and the Anti-Blackness Reader Projects. And I'm an overall Black person who believes in Black liberations with an S, and we'll probably get to that later in the conversation. Oh, and I'm a sexy Sag. I'm a sexy December Sag. That shit matters. No shade, no tea to the November Sages, but
You're Scorpio, so
November Scorpios. Those are the only ones, right? There's other.
exactly.
I love that energy. I love it. I'm a Scorpio moon.
I don't know any of the extra things. I just know that
Oh,
I'm.
we need you to know the extra stuffs.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get into this at another point, like in our relationship.
Yeah.
But I think you know that I was adopted, and I
Mm.
recently found my family through ancestry
Wow.
DNA, the other half of my family. So I've known my mother my entire life, thought I knew my father my entire life as well, but was informally adopted. So I never lived with either one of them.
Mm.
But learned that my father was someone else that I didn't think. Um, and in terms of like birth time and like birth certificate, my mama don't know what time I was born. I had a whole conversation with her and she was like, I don't know. I have no idea. So I need
My
to
mom
figure.
didn't either. The state knew because the state surveils.
Yeah, exactly. So I need to find that information on my own because my mother was not a good steward of my birth time.
Yeah.
So
If you know where you were born, the county or the parish or whatever,
yeah.
usually they put the timestamp on your long firm birth certificate.
Okay. I definitely need to find that because there are so many things that I want to know, like in terms of um celestial things that I have no idea because there's always this question of what time were you born? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no
Uh,
clue.
I'm gonna put it right here on wax that somewhere in your chart is some big Sag energy. I don't know how, but I just feel like it. Watch it turn out you got a Sag moon or some shit, and I'll be like, I knew it.
Yeah. I believe that. I'm receiving it.
Hmm.
I'm definitely receiving it. Mhm.
So yes, so that's my introduction. That's what I got.
Yes. Well, we are so glad that you are here and thank you so much for those acknowledgments. And I hope what people take away is not only the acknowledgments that you had, but also that we can care for people, but also have moments of joy as well. Because we acknowledged, we know that these things are happening, but we also have to be able to lean into joy as well, because if we don't lean into joy, I feel like we definitely dissipate, disappear, we die.
Uh, so I know that I'm gonna make a huge leap here. You know, it's one of those things where like when we think about blackisms or what gets people's black card revoked, you know, you can't tell people you've not seen The Color Purple. You better keep that shit sit silent. So I'm assuming one of the blackisms is you being able to finish the song for me. Finish the line. Joy and
Pain.
yes. Get out the car, girl. I cannot be associated with you if you can't finish that lyric. Sunshine.
And rain.
Sing it again.
I can't with you right now. I was so scared that I wasn't gonna know. I mean, terrified. Terrified.
The conversation is done. We did what we needed to do.
Exactly. I still got my card, y'all.
You still got your car. We have had to hold nuance our
Yes.
whole existence. And so people say, well, how can you be joyful in this? And I'm like, listen. You don't know the history then. Because that is the history of being Black across the diaspora, is moving through grief,
Yeah.
moving through anger. We are the people of Nuck If You Buck and joy and pain and it's my party. I could cry if I want to. You know, we're all of those things. We contain multitudes. I'm glad
Yeah.
you passed the test
Yeah.
because
Me
I was
too.
gonna have to delete your number on my phone. Like it was about to get real sticky.
Girl, she was about to ghost me.
I was like, she don't even know Maze. I can't even like. And then for
With
the Black people who watch this, who like we had no clue what it is, you got time to get your weight up. Like, go ahead and like.
oh my goodness. Okay. I'm so glad I passed. But I'm also glad that we talked about like this duality as well
Mhm.
as I think that's kind of connected to the reason for this vodcast or podcast is that liberation is not just this or that. It's not binary.
Can't
Um,
be.
it is multi-layered,
It's
multi.
Brittany.
Hey, Brittany. Oh, glad you're here, girl. It's multifaceted. There are different ways that we experience freedom, different ways that we experience liberation. And if we wait until the day that everything is perfect for us to experience freedom or experience liberation, well, it'll never happen. It'll never
Won't.
happen. So we have to find the joy in the things that are around us, because yes, everything isn't going to be pretty, everything isn't going to be great, but there are things that we can be thankful for, that we can have joy about. So that's what it's about. So,
Agreed.
all right, so let's talk about decolonizing your life. For anyone wondering what that means, what does that mean to you? Just to ground everyone who's listening into this conversation.
So if this is the first time you're ever, for new people who are new to me, you'll know like I am a bootleg historian, meaning my my formal education is in communication studies, rhetoric, and identity. I am a bootleg historian because I think history gives us so much context to help us understand things. And so before I talk about what decolonization means, I do want to share like a little bit of historic fact. So the man that many people name as the great emancipator, which is a lie, Abraham Lincoln. I cannot express that enough. Stop calling that man an emancipator. No. But what he did do is secure funding through the legislative process in the United States to get Black people sent back to Africa. Like that was a real movement. At, in the height of his presidency, he secured about $65,000, which, like in 18 something, that's a lot of money to get Congress to be like, send them back. So they started to get groups of various Black folk, some free, but a lot of people who were enslaved, and be like, we're going to send you to different places. So they sent some people to the area we known as the Panama Canal area, a couple of different places in the Caribbean, and one group they sent to Africa, more specifically Liberia. And so in February of 1820, the first group of formerly enslaved people resettled from the United States. They resettled to Africa from New York. And the organization that facilitated this was the American Colonization Society. So, with the money that was funded from the president and Congress, they returned to Liberia, West Africa. And one of the first things they do is name the capital. I want to just take a moment and give people time to process this. So your federal government spent money to send people back to Africa. Okay, just hold that. And this group of Africans get there and they're like, okay, we're here. Oh, and let's name the place we live after James Monroe, one of the old dead white presidents. Right? Now, I believe the young folks on the TikTok would say they came with some colonizing energy. Right? And so, I think because for people who are like, what does this got to do with Black people? It has a lot to do with us in a sense of not naming us as colonizers, but naming where we have learned colonizing behavior.
Yeah.
And part of how we heal ourselves is you can't heal what you don't reveal, sis. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be able to name something to heal yourself from that thing. So, I wanted to just like, if people are like, why does this conversation matter? That's why it matters. That wherever we move, however we exist as people in the African diaspora, we want to make sure that we don't carry with us any of the shit that white people do. All right. And so decolonization refers to the process of undoing colonialism. It involves the dismantling of colonial powers, structures, ideologies, and practices that have been imposed on colonized peoples and land. And it is a multifaceted process. It does include unlearning political, cultural, economic, and psychological ways of being and doing, right? So for me, I tell people decolonization is about dismantling empire and colonial power. Decentering is about resisting centering the most empowered, right? And divesting means you literally stop investing in the maintenance of oppressive systems, ideologies, and practices, right? So all of those things work in tandem for people to get free, and for us to not be walking around again naming, rather it's a physical place after an old dead white man, or just in our own lives and practices, using colonial violence, using imperialism, using whiteness and supremacy culture as a way to build your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what colonization means to me.
Hearing all of that is very overwhelming because our lives are so colonized and we don't even realize it. So if you're listening, just know that you don't need to attack everything all at once, but there are certain things that you'll be able to do that Kina will share with you later in this episode that can start the process for you, especially when you think about you and the things that you individually are doing, because you may not be able to change another person. You may not be able to dismantle an entire system in your lifetime, but what you can do is dismantle um, colon- colonial thinking in your mind, in your body. Like those are the things that you are able to address, and the things that you should actually start with,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
because we have
So
in whiteness. So
yeah. So that's how I came to it, right? So I came to the journey of decolonizing by first starting with divesting. And again, I love that you said that. If it's overwhelming, just take it at a piece by piece by piece by piece, right? So I came to what was the on ramp for me. Um, I lived when I moved to a city that directly had been impacted by the murder of Alton Sterling.
mm,
And I got hired at a university that is considered like the flagship of the state. And I had a 15 plus year career at higher ed at the time. And baby, if anybody, your girl knew how to outwhite the whitest person in the room. Don't play with me, right? Like that is how respectable I was.
yeah.
Code switching, yes. Straight hair, yes. Manicured beige nude nails, yes. Talking about Lil Wayne in the classroom, I would never, because I didn't want people to be like, ooh, this N-word teaching the class, this N-word who's my colleague. You know what I'm saying? So I knew how to do all the things to be presentable and then to make white people comfortable.
And to keep yourself safe.
And to
Let's,
keep myself safe. Yeah,
yeah.
that's important. Those are survival mechanisms. And then I got myself in a situation where I was teaching at a new university. And no matter how Claire Huxtable I was, right? No shade to Claire Huxtable, but I'm just giving that imagery. I spent 2 months literally asking a white woman to open my office door because she wouldn't get me office keys
Wow.
because I was being racially hazed, meaning I was being taught what my place was,
Mm,
right? And she would say things to me like, I know you have lots of degrees, da 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 da, right? So it was her insecurity about me that, and even to this day, Crystle, it might have even been unconscious on her part. I don't know and I don't care. But I know that she was doing things to remind me, girl, you an N-word.
mm-hmm.
And so eventually I was like, I'm being the whitest version of myself, the whitest version. And I am still being treated like 12 years a slave.
Yeah.
I give up. I'm done. It costs too much energy. It's a farce. I can't even pull up listening to my ratchet playlist. And I'm worth it.
Exactly. What was on your ratchet playlist at the
Oh
time?
my gosh, what was on my ratchet playlist at the time? I mean, okay, well, I still have the same ratchet playlist. So some of the go-tos are like Plenty Money by Plies, like that right there. I got plenty of money. Let the
Yes.
streets know, like
Hmm.
classic. So, and I'm just like, I'm done. Like, it ain't doing nothing. I can see the material consequences of it. So, anyway, that's where I started. So, that brings us to whiteness. R.G. Thompson, which is a historian and a sociologist, says that whiteness, well, so we're talking about capital W whiteness, because there's two definitions. There's distinguished, I want to make a distinction here. Um, and before anybody comes for me, listen, let me just say this. I bring 3 levels of embodied knowledge, and I don't always do this, right? But I do sometimes feel like it's important. The most important piece of embodied knowledge I bring to this is, even though I did not live in the Jim Crow South, I was in the body of a woman who was.
Mm.
That ancestral knowledge matters. All right. The second thing is my lived experience. I'm out here every day. And then the least important is I have a degree, some degrees from white government institutions that say I know how to read and write. Least important. Message for all you Black people with lots of credentials. We love to see it. But the least important thing that makes you important is some shit that white people have given you. And y'all can pray about that later. So all I'm saying is that it is those things that inform the distinctions that I'm about to make. All right.
Mm.
Because people might say, I've never heard it explained that way. And I just want people to know, Crystle, I didn't just make this up. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes when people are presented with new information, they want to invalidate it because they don't understand.
Mhm.
All right. So that's why I had to just give receipts in case people have questions later. So when I talk about capital W whiteness, I'm talking about what Audrey Thompson says. Whiteness is not a biological category, but it's a social construction, right? So, insofar as whiteness is thought of as natural, it's not. It is understood in essential terms, but really, we're not talking about something that's biological, right? We're talking about things that have a social construction. We're talking about things that's a scientific category, but it's not rooted in anything real. So, capital W whiteness is what I'm going to say is a political and social and rhetorical construction that centers on the characteristics, experiences, and traits associated with European ancestry. All right. And that construction has real time consequences. All right. I'd even go as far as to say that is the result of social and cultural processes rooted in the global history of European imperialism, the transatlantic slave trade, and maintained through institutions, ideologies, and everyday social practices, which is very different. And so that's what I was invested in, right?
Mm.
I was a Black woman invested in whiteness
Yeah.
and centering how I understood myself, how I needed to behave in that, right? Which is different than what I call lowercase whiteness, which just refers to the social and political and cultural constructs that label and identify certain people as white, right? And in the United States, what's really interesting is there are peoples whose ancestors came here who weren't white,
Right.
like Italian people, Greek people, Irish people. None of them people, when they got here first, were white people, right? They became white in the process when white folks needed more white folks.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh, listen, we opening some more factories and we only letting the white men work. And they were like, but baby, you don't have enough white men. Okay, who can we make white? Those people.
Mhm.
That's literally how that happened. That's how that went down. All right. So lowercase whiteness is the categorization of who gets racialized as white, who gets to use the label, and that is fluid. Kardashians, them white people. How they got white? Because when the United States was involved in all the geopolitical madness that was, they were like, we're gonna fast track y'all's visas, and when y'all get here, guess what? Y'all could be white.
Mhm.
But whiteness is that political social construction that leans heavily on understanding your humanity as it relates to European understanding. So those are the distinctions.
Yeah, I big capital letter, capital W, white
Mm-hmm.
is definitely one of those things that I think has had a lot of us caught up in a place where we are trying to be a different person than we are. So, like you, and I'm sure many other people who are listening to this episode right now, there have been times where I have been Crystle at home and Crystle at work.
Mm-hmm.
And it is exhausting. It is definitely exhausting to show up as two people, to try to appease a group of people in order to keep yourself safe. I
Yeah.
don't want to get fired, so I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna change. I'm not gonna use AVE. Oh, there's something else I wanted to add to. Part of why I really did a lot of research and work around this is because I want to be really mindful of how I frame this. Not for you, but for, again, people who are listening. I've always known that I am not a white supremacist.
Hmm.
And in the base of that, I mean, I've never thought that white people were better than me. I wasn't taught that. I didn't believe that. So when people are like, you're upholding white supremacy, I'm like, who? No, that's not what I'm doing. But what I can make space for is how I've been informed by whiteness. So
Hmm.
again, this is how I piece those things separately. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like again, I make space for people who are like, well, hey Kina, that's not how I read it, that's not how I understand it. Hey, listen, that's fine. But this is my own informed viewpoint of that. Kina in herself has never invested energy in a white supremacy project. Not
Hmm.
nan day. What I can own is in ways in which I've invested in whiteness as a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
So that's
ab-
how I make those distinctions.
Absolutely, because we have to. I mean, we have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
but the other side of it is a dire situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
dire situation if the things that we do are not informed by whiteness. Because I
Yeah, and
guarantee.
I mean, and whiteness kills people too.
Hmm.
And if we're talking metaphorically, but literally, because Kina was dying inside when I kept showing up to work, not my full self,
Yep.
not giving people the business when they needed to be given the business because I was like, I don't want to seem like the angry, aggressive black woman. So I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna hold. I'm not gonna create boundaries. I'm not gonna maintain boundaries because I just don't want to be seen as ruffling feathers. That if it doesn't literally kill you, it can kill you on the inside.
Yeah. And that's what we have called on many episodes, the term weathering,
Mm-hmm.
because we are dying on the inside. We aren't
And you
saying
made the declaration, we ain't dying for this.
exactly. We ain't dying for this. And this could mean a lot of different things.
It sure can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The this is fluid and subjective.
Hmm. It sure is. It sure is. So in your declaration of we ain't dying for this, Kina ain't dying for this, you said that she was doing all these things for a couple of months and finally you were just like, F it. I'm not I'm not doing this anymore. It's too tiring to be two different people. I am showing up as the whitest version of myself, and that is still not helping me. So now I'm going to just be who it is that I am. So talk a little bit about how you how you began to show up first, and then secondly, when you think about the black women who are listening to this call, what are some of the ways that they can show up for themselves that gives them the ability to not take it all on at once, but take small steps in advocating and supporting themselves.
So I really believe in being informed by other people's wisdoms. I'm going to give some quotes, not in a cliche way, but I'm going to tell you what this means.
Mm.
So when I started my divesting journey, the most immediate, when you use a new hygiene project, like a new skin cleanser or a new shower gel or something, and you almost immediately see the results, you be like, oh yes, it was worth it getting this moisturizer. You know what I'm saying? You like, my skin is okay. So one of the most immediate results in my divesting journey is I got okay with not knowing the answers.
Mm.
And when you are a college professor, that's a lot, because students be asking you questions. And for a long time, I would make up shit. Even if I didn't know the answer, I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. And then this is how you knew my tail was the wordier I got. Meaning the more I used 16, 17 letter words, the more you knew I didn't know. I was like, and the discombobulation and the axiological, and I really have no clue what I am saying, but I'm going to try to act like I know some shit by just elongating everything. Because I wasn't comfortable.
Hold up. Have you seen that video of this guy on the podcast? And he's like, if you're homeless, buy a house. And if you can't buy a house, then use the money from the house that you're living in to do something. I got to send you the video, but that's kind of like what it reminded me of, just the foolishness that
I was so foolish, sis. Students would actually think,
what are you saying?
I was foolish. I was like, if I just use a lot of words that are big that y'all don't understand, then y'all won't know that I don't know. So the most immediate benefit is I got comfortable like, I don't get the answer. And depending on how they ask me, I'll be like, I don't know. And it was so funny because students would be unhinged.
Yeah.
They were like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, I mean, I don't know, but like, I can figure it out. Let me come back. It was a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Because that means my value wasn't attached to how it was seen by them.
Yeah.
Right? My value is innate. Right? So part of what we need to do in practice, particularly for Black femmes, women, people who, is acknowledge that your value isn't questionable. It is there because you exist.
Yeah.
Period. Meaning, if I don't do another podcast, if I don't want another LinkedIn post, but if I spend the rest of my life listening to plies and twerking, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I did my part, right? So Kimberly Williams Crenshaw can't start without acknowledging the system of intersectionality. Has a quote. It's not about asking, it's about demanding. It's not about convincing those who are currently in power. It's about changing the very face of power itself. The first thing you need to do is recognize I am the person who's in power, and yes. I am the person who I answer to. I don't need to wait for other people to give me permission to be. I am. I don't have to seek validation from anybody else except for myself. My only competition, guess what? It ain't you, Crystle. Love and light to you, but you ain't my competition, sis.
Yeah.
You know who Keena's competition is? Keena. I need to wake up every day and be the better version of myself.
That's facts.
So much of society is set up for us to wait for somebody else to give us approval and say we matter. And for me, it was like, oh, the more I publish, the more panels I sit on, that's gonna make me valid. It never will. This is gonna heal somebody today, girl. That conference paper ain't gonna make them like you anymore. Don't stay up to 2 o'clock trying to print. Not saying you shouldn't write the paper, but I'm just saying somewhere like, forget this dissertation.
Finish your dissertation.
Finish your dissertation, since you almost there. But I'm just not somebody sending this to their parents, be like, I'm out. Gina Crystle said. But for real, like, seriously, like, you are what we are. When I think about we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, I am there. I am that girl. I am her. I am. And honestly, in a world that is constantly finding new ways to unalive us every day,
Yeah.
the very act of breath, right? Which leads us to a quote by Oprah Winfrey: breathe, let go, and remind yourself that this very moment is the only one you know you have for sure. So that means the second thing you need to do is practice being present.
Live, honey. Live.
I have to be present for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the most amazing gifts I can give myself. And it is only what I give me that I can give to you. A lot of y'all, and by y'all I mean the generic y'all, are involved with in situations, whether that's relationships, professional collaborations, whatever, and y'all are trying to get people to give you things that they don't even give themselves.
Mm.
I can't expect you to give. I can't expect compassion. I can't give you compassion if I don't give myself compassion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't make space to give you empathy if I don't give myself empathy. So I had to learn how to be present with myself, right? Today I had a hard day, and part of that was because I didn't practice, I didn't give myself the gift of presence, right? And it's a practice. It's getting I get better at it every day, but I attended to so many people's needs and left my needs on the back burner, which leads me to that part of what I had to do is stop moving in white urgency,
Mm.
right? And what I'm naming as white urgency is moving at the speed of what other people's demands are and not intentionally develop time fluidity, especially as it relates to our expectations of self and others, right? And that is not to say that I can't be time sensitive, right? But like, for example, for the people who are staying up at 11 o'clock at night responding to work emails. Now, if that's your zone, if you're the most productive at 11 o'clock at night, that's fine, right? But if you feel like I gotta hurry up and answer this email because I want the boss to and I want the colleagues, you moving in white urgency.
Yeah.
It is entirely possible the thing that you want me to be urgent about can wait, right? I don't want to make this a political conversation, but I will say this. I don't have to decide who I'm voting for right now. I don't. And I won't, right? But the clamoring, you gotta make a decision. You gotta
Yeah.
I have 77, 76, 74, however, but the point is 74 days up in this. Let me have my process. Get out of my face, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Some stuff we get to move through. Things like grief. You don't got to rush that. You don't have to rush it, you know? So that's what I mean. So practicing presence with myself is giving myself permission to be in tune with me, to be fluid with me. Um, and then lastly, Audre Lorde, what they call it, a oldie but a goodie. Caring for myself is not self-indulgent. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. That's the third thing. I had to recognize that taking care of Kina, that's not selfish. That's not self-indulgence. It's part of how I resist all these violent systems.
Yes.
I have to have something for myself that doesn't belong to anyone else. So if you are a Black parent, if you're a Black partner, right? Especially if you're someone who identifies as a Black woman, we get it. We we literally birthed a species of people, right? So our default setting is to create opportunities for people to be well. But because of violent systems and ideologies, we have learned to put ourselves on a back burner. It is okay for you to have something that is just for you, nobody else. You
Mm.
know how parents joke about they hide the snacks in the freezer from the kids? Yes, do that. Heck, get a whole shelf if you can. It's called My Shelf. What's the shelf called? My Shelf. Nobody else's shelf. And when
Mm.
your husband and your kids are like, my shelf is for me. But don't, this over here is for me. Nobody else. Right? A couple years ago, I was sitting at this desk and it's just like a revelation came to me. This is the order of business, Tina. It is me, we, and everybody else.
Mm,
Me, we is the we right now, and everybody else.
mm-hmm.
And I'm standing on that business because for my whole Black life, it was everybody else. Y'all gonna get the hint later who the everybody else I'm talking about is. Then it was the we. And if I had anything left over, it was for me. Now, who you think lost out in that equation, Crystle?
You.
I did. I did. And so I just had to change the tide. So those are the three things I would say Black women have to do to decolonize their life. Is practice presence, know that your value is innate and it is not tied to other people's expectations. It's not tied to what people give you permission to do or not to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then lastly, caring for yourself is the people, it is your business. That's your one assignment. That's not your purpose, but that's your assignment.
Yeah. All of those resonate with me, but particularly the one about urgency, because I used to be that person that would be up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish something that I wanted to turn in the next morning. And it's like, why am I doing this? And I this happened to me the other day where I was like, ooh, I have all these things that I need to do. I was like, I need to send this email. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, she ain't about to read this email at 10 o'clock at night. I'll send it in the morning. So it's a journey because there are still
It's
times like, oh, I need to be moving at the speed of light. And then I have to check myself to say, absolutely not. Is it really urgent or is it just me wanting to send it because I feel like it's urgent in this moment? So just being able to take a step back, take a breath, and decide, is it actually something that needs to happen right now or can it happen tomorrow? And
and
not
that is
in
yeah,
account.
and that's not to say we can't be time sensitive because we can be. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So we can hold both things. Part of my decolonization has been to re-Africanize my life, right? And I know that's a big thing to say. People who are not Black, who are not in African diaspora, but in particular people who live in the continental United States, I cannot say this enough. In this anti-woke moment, anti-CRT moment, it almost makes me laugh, right? This idea that they're like, we need to ban the books and stuff because they're teaching the kids about slavery. Are they though? it, it is Harriet Tubman, maybe Martin Luther King, and then Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Maybe Frederick Douglass, possibly. All right, no. So in the work of re-educating myself about the history I have here, but then the history that is connected to the larger diaspora, I realized that the Europeans got on boats and then they came across the like they went all over the world giving people watches and clocks.
Mm,
And I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what I do. I oversimplify shit. And said, if you want to do business with us, here are these watches and clocks. So I remind Black people all the time that we are the people of the sun and the moon. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, even when you think about that concept of CP time, and it's a joke, right? Oh, you on because of CP time. No, I'm on the original time. But then
mm-hmm.
you wanted something different,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't make it seem like my thing is less important than the thing that they made up. And so what I do, because again, just I want to like make sure I make this clear because I don't need nobody to tell their boss, like, look, when I am saying this, you know, when people speak different languages, some people are like, I'm bilingual, whatever. I think about time orientation like that. Like, okay, linear time is an option, but so is fluidity. Which one for this project are we engaging in?
Exactly.
Similarly to if I were doing a project in Mexico, I might say to the team, are we going to be speaking in English or are we going to be speaking in Spanish or are we going to be doing both? Right? So a lot of times when I start a new collaboration with people, I'll be like, hey, are we using linear time, which is the time that Europeans made up? and then force everybody else to use? Or are we going to be more time fluid? Because my people come. I'm from the people of the sun and the moon. So which one?
Yeah. I'm about to lean into this time fluidity.
Girl, I got resources on deck for you. Stop letting people tell you that you late or you on CT time. Late to who? For where? For why?
Send me the resources.
I will. It's going to get you free.
I love that.
And if I do show up at, if the dinner plan, I really don't want people to think I'm a jerk, but it's okay. If you say, Kina, you need to meet me at 7, right? I might do that in a sense because I know being punctual is important to you. And that's different. That's a relational thing. I'm going to show up at 7 o'clock because I know how Crystle feels about it, but not because it's an expectation based off of whiteness and supremacy culture. I'm going to show up at 7 o'clock for you because I care about you and you want to see the trailer before the movie starts.
Got it.
That is different.
Yes. Yes. Very different.
And I literally have a homegirl, Crystle, who loves being prompt. And so when I show up at 10 o'clock, she already know. She knew I was going to show up at 7. We good.
I'll be late. I ain't even gonna lie.
You're not late. You were being fluid. And you
being fluid.
You being fluid.
Yeah. I got to change my language. I love that.
Some of y'all are too. You know what? Let's keep moving. Let me, because this is a hill I will die on. Everything that is organic to us, we have let other people tell us what it is, tell us that it's bad, and then we've been changing the shit ever since.
Yeah. That's true. Show up as you, authentically, organically.
Who would have thought? And all that stuff that people have taught you is a detriment. You need to spin that shit around and actually say it's a gift. Being time fluid is a gift. And at the height of COVID, it taught us that fluidity is actually necessary for life. Not a detriment. Not these expectations of professionalism rooted in whiteness and supremacy culture. Miss me with that. Everything that we organically do is actually necessary for humanity to thrive.
Absolutely.
You cannot convince me of anything less.
And when you show up organically and authentically, you find your people. And when you aren't, it keeps you from connecting with the right people that can pour into you and that who are connected to you because of who you are. And I have learned that hard lesson multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
When I think about something like twerking, which I'm really bad at, we have data that talks about like what that means, like the lowness to the ground. You get what I'm saying? Like the gravitational pull, the connection to the earth. Like we read that as sexual or whatever, but honestly, it's like even the very act of twerking is a movement, it's a possession, it's a spiritual practice. It's like connecting and grounding yourself in movement. You know what I'm saying? But we're taught, that's like this, and this. So again, we have to go back and be like, how do we reclaim these things that we have been told are bad when they're really actually really good, not just for my community, not just for myself, but actually good for the entire species. I'm gonna stop because I get worked up.
Oh, it's okay. I heard reclaim it. So you shared with us how Black women can show up for themselves. How can people who call themselves allies, who call themselves advocates, how can they show up for Black women?
Stop calling yourself an ally first.
T. Clocked it.
Don't you get me kicked off of the Lincoln Listen. I am so tired. I'm good at making inappropriate examples. That's my thing. Could you imagine like being in one of your most intimate relationships and someone always like saying like, I don't know, just like my mom doesn't have to like announce she's my mom. She is. My friends don't be like, you know, I'm your friend, girl. I know. Like, be the thing. You don't have to announce the thing if you are the thing. I don't have to keep telling people I'm a bad bitch. It
Just
if
show
you
up
got
in that energy.
I show up with big, you're welcome energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to tell people if you are the thing. So that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Stop. You don't have to announce it. Just be the thing. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, and that is not to say that I don't let people outside call me that. So like, funny story, a few years ago I was at a pride event and I ended up talking to this amazing queer woman. And then some kind of way she found out I was straight, right? She was like, "Oh, you're not queer." And I'm like, "No, unfortunately."
Not unfortunately.
Listen, listen. This is about to become a whole different podcast, sis. Listen, it is the unfortunate of my life that I am not attracted to anybody but men. I mean, we're gonna stop it right here. Men, you are beautiful. So anyway, when she found out that I was not a queer person, right? She's like, "Oh, and you're still here and you're doing it." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You're such a good ally." I freaked out, Crystle. I was like, "No, I mean, I mean, I am, but I'm not. I mean, you can call me, but I don't call myself." Like, it was a weird. I was like, as long as you say it, but I didn't say it. You said it. I mean, I had this whole meltdown because it was like, thank you for acknowledging that you see me and see that. But I'm not about to walk around in a room calling me that. I feel like that has to be both a relational thing and
Yeah.
a other people say it thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely it does.
And if every time I meet a trans person or a queer person or pansexual person and I lead with, "Hey, my name is Keena, you know I'm an ally," you know what they should do? Walk away from me. Don't trust the shit I got going on.
Yeah.
Because that's performative. So if
Mm-hmm.
you want to show Black woman, if you are not Black woman and you want to show people that you care for us, that you support us, then center us. Give yourself new rubrics. Ask yourself the question, is this good for Black women? If this policy, if this move, if this choice is good for Black women. I have learned and I'm still learning to ask myself internally, is this good for Black trans women?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I'm recognizing that there's a group of people who have even less than I do, Black trans women. So when I'm advocating for a certain type of policy or position or action, is it good for Black trans women? Make that a part of your regular practice of freedom and liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Not, is this going to make me look good in front of Black women? Those are two different questions. You see what I'm saying, Crystle? And I think a lot of people, and I can start naming people on LinkedIn, you are asking the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that people need to resist, because we're talking about what people who aren't non-Black women can do to decolonize their life. Recognize that all of these things are bound together. Capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, whiteness, all of these things are bound together and they inform one another to create oppressive strategies, structures, systems, ways of being. Something simple, case in point. When you and I got on a call, part of the reason why, and if we could run that tape back, people would see it. I didn't get on a call with you to tell you how important I was, how many books I got, how many degrees I got. I was like, girl, I'm going to keep this bonnet on. And if you had met me on the south side of Chicago, that probably still would have been my posturing. I would not have been like, "Hi, my name is Joquina Reed, and I'm da 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 da." I would have been like, "I had lunch, and I think it was too spicy." You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't start from the place of I need to know information about you so I can extract value and decide if you're worth knowing.
Yeah.
How terrible of a situation are we in that we start with new people on some, what do you do?
Yeah.
As if that can tell you who I am in the world. I'd much rather somebody be like, how, like at middle age where I am as a 40 something Black woman, how's your poo cycle? Like how frequently are you pooing?
Get off the internet, Kina. Right now. Close the laptop.
Do you use probiotics? Like, can you still eat ice cream? Like, no, I cannot. I can have only a little bit. I'm just saying this is real shit. Not like, what do you do? Like, and I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I want us to understand that makes that means that we have literally built our relationships from a place of abstraction.
Yeah.
What can I get from you? What can you give me? And that's really important for colonization for people whose very existence has been predicated on being of service to other people. You want to know if somebody really loves your Black ass? Tell them no and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them you can't do that thing and see what happens. Create a boundary and see what happens. When a Black woman tells me yes, I get excited. When a Black woman tells me no, guess what? I still get excited. Because that means sis is taking care of sis.
Yeah.
Sis is creating boundaries. I'm always cheerlead that. And then thank you for reminding me that I can do the same.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought about when that question came up around what can people who want to support Black women do, is being able to accept when a boundary is set and not assign them that they're being difficult or they're being angry or they're um, difficult to work with or whatever the case is, but being able to accept that sis said no, she can't do it. So now you need to figure out another route of how you're going to get this thing done rather than turning it on her and making it seem like she's bad.
Disagreeable, disappointed.
Mm. Yeah.
I think that's what's powerful about certain, I don't want to name any names here, but I made a post recently and I was like, if you meet a Black woman who is publicly disagreeable, get curious about the work she did to be that way.
Mm.
Because she did work to be able to be comfortable being the type of person that people don't like. Don't get mad, get curious.
Yeah.
Because I've done work, like when you said I was Crystle at home and Crystle at work. I at one point was Kina at home, Kina, and even that was like predicated because it was like home Kina, family Kina, community Kina, Kina at church, Kina at work.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest successes of my life is that if you, the Kina you get tonight, if you met her tomorrow in the
Yep.
coffee shop, same one. If you like, it's the same. But that was work.
Yeah.
That, and it is still work. You know, in certain spaces. Yesterday I was on a call with a white woman, and I'll just say this: she got disgruntled and created a situation where I was supposed to take care of her emotionally. I was like, will not, do not. I said, get off this call with me and then maybe figure out your capacity. And if you got the capacity to control and you figure out your emotions, then we can reschedule this. But I'm not going to make myself responsible for holding up emotional weight.
Mm.
You know, she rejected her ass. She
Wait, I
was
missed you. The internet connection. Say again.
I was on a call with a white woman yesterday.
No, you said that you know what she did. That's the part I missed.
When I told her that I wasn't going to be responsible for her emotional well-being,
Yes.
I said, if you need to get off this Zoom and recollect yourself and get some more capacity, but I'm not going to be in charge of your emotional well-being right now. It instantly stopped. But it stopped because I refused.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because if I had let her just cry and emote all over, that call would have been less about how she had harmed me and more about me taking, like, she would have centered herself. She couldn't
Yeah.
help it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I
It's
literally said,
that it's not, though.
I said, no, I'm not doing this with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
6 years ago, I would have, though, Crystle. That's what I'm saying. 6 years ago, she would have cried. I would have consoled her. I would have been like, lay your head on my bosom. I'll emotionally breastfeed you. I don't got time for that.
Good for
I'm
you.
saving all my emotional breast milk for myself.
For me, it's
For
not. I'm taking that from your previous statement, but you're right
yes,
though.
Tony, I hope that made sense. I was on a call with a white woman talking about some harm she had done to me. And the minute I start talking about it, she gets ready to start posturing herself for crying. And let's
Yeah.
to be fair, maybe as a human being, she really was like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by this information, which is why I said, if you need to take a pause, get together, get yourself together, increase your capacity, we could restart this again at another time.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I would say for people who are not Black women. Resist calling yourself an ally. Center the most vulnerable. Start asking yourself, is this good for Black women? Is this good for people who are more vulnerable than me? Resist those extractive relationships and get you some strategies to redirect yourself. That is not my work.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because I believe in getting people delivered. Because delivered with a D is temporary.
Yeah.
Delivered with a T is lifelong. I really want us to understand the compulsion of white comfort, especially for Black women,
Yeah.
right? We have a history of making sure if the white people are happy and okay, maybe we will survive. That is still some shit that we are working through. You wonder why you get anxious when a white woman starts crying at the board meeting or whatever? Because we literally were in a situation as a people that if a white woman cried, someone could get murdered.
Yeah.
A life could literally be lost because a white woman cried. So when they do it in front of us, we're like, all hands on deck, comfort, 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 comfort. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to extend empathy to another human being, but we really got to think about it, and especially as it relates to if I offer you this comfort or this empathy, will I be negating my experience? And in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, I would have been negating my experience if I made that call about her crying. We
Yeah.
would have never returned back to me. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what I got. Stop letting no white woman cry in your face, y'all, unless she's your good friend and she just upset and y'all are in friendship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's what you said is very similar to our conversation with Fatima Mann. The way that she leads her workshops is that she makes room for Black women to emote, but she does not respond to the tears of white women. She asks them to get themselves together because
Yep. Get camera off, leave the call, take care of yourself. And let's think about that. I'll be trying not to tell people what to do on their shit, but that's a whole different conversation, sis. The power of Black women emoting.
emoting as liberation.
Do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
If
that
somebody
could be,
talk about that, send me a DM.
yeah, because that could be rather I emote in tears because we've been taught not to cry because don't nobody want to hear that.
Yeah.
This week I've been practicing. You could get your ass cussed out. Try it.
Try Jesus, but don't try me.
Listen, I don't even play the radio, boo. This is my energy, and I want all of us to get to this place. Like, I'm serious.
I love it.
I want all of us to get to the place where you can get cussed out.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is, we hold so much of our pain, Crystle. We suffer in silence. It
Yeah.
becomes like a tumor in our bodies. And I don't think people really realize that. And we withhold that from the people who are closest to us. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not just outside of the community, that's in the community. And I grew up at some point in my life in old black church. That's the best way to describe it. And I can remember the mothers of the church, they would be wearing white and they would get on their knees and they would just moan. And, and I mean, outside of the spiritual practice of it, I recognize that was because that's the only place they could cry and people want to say shit.
Yeah. That's real.
So I give myself permission every day. Look, you might get me crying. I think we cried on the Bible check a little bit. You might get me in my knuckle for you buck energy. You just gonna get what you get, and that's where I am. But
Yeah.
that is work. That is decolonizing. That is coming home to self.
Absolutely. And I just want to close that by saying when you do hold things in, you described it as a tumor, but we are, in fact, inviting disease into our body when we are holding in all the emotions, all the pain, the things that we should have said, the things that we wanted to say. We're definitely inviting disease into our body. And we ain't dying for this.
We ain't.
We ain't. We ain't.
So for all the white women who are upset about what I say on the Instagram, unfollow. You don't have to be here.
Unfollow. But if there's anyone who is listening right now who's not following Kina, please make sure
You
that
can follow me, but just know you might get cussed out of you.
follow Joquina Reed.
Follow Joquina Reed on LinkedIn. The divesting from whiteness. You can type in divesting from whiteness across socials, IG, on the TikTok. Sometimes a TikTok. I'm an old person TikToking, so it ain't.
I gotta start doing TikToks. I'm a lurker.
But this is me. This is like, I don't do that kind of TikTok. What else?
Mm. You'll be dancing. Okay.
Yeah, what's the other? Yeah.
You and these melodies that you be doing.
I know. And I be dead ass be like, when they go, and people like, no, we don't know. We don't know what you're talking about.
But yes, if you are listening, please follow Kina on all platforms. But before we close out, first, I want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and your story with us around decolonizing your life as liberation. But next week, we will be, for those of you who didn't hear this at the beginning, we will be talking with Brittany Janae Kess again. We spoke with her last week during the retreat, but there was lots of wind, lots of noise where you couldn't hear everything Brittany was saying. So she is going to come back to us with a part 2, take 2 of that conversation from last week, this coming Thursday. And before we end the call, because we love Brittany's liberated love notes, Kina is actually going to pull a liberated love note for herself and a liberated love note for me.
Okay, sis, you are amazing. Brittany is amazing. One of the first, we could have added this. What do you want to do to show up for Black women? Buy her liberated love notes, especially during this election season. If it's a Black woman who lives in the United States, because the misogynoir is real.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this is my card, and I'm if I emote, I'm gonna emote. Being Black is not exhausting. Racism and white supremacy are exhausting. White apathy in response to racism is exhausting. Being Black is a gift. Being Black is an honor. That's my card, and I'm gonna remember that tonight.
That
because
was
I am
perfect
feeling
for you.
exhausted.
Yeah, that was so perfect for you today.
Mhm. All right, this is your card. Wait, hold on. Oh, wait, me. Now I feel like I gotta really move the deck. All right. Thank you, Brittany, for this beautiful gift. All right, this card is for you, Crystle. All right, it says, some days I may choose to work twice as hard. Other days, they gonna get what they gonna get. Always, my best effort is enough. My best effort is enough. I am enough. That's for you,
Yeah.
sis. They
Yes.
gonna get what they gonna get. Make that your email signature, your outgoing email.
Right now, you're gonna get this out of office message.
You about to get what you gonna get. Listen, listen. Okay, I know we're supposed to be wrapping up, but let me just say this. We get to change the norms. And the only reason something becomes normalized is because no one has changed the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying? If 10 black if you sent an email to 10 black women and at the end of their outgoing messages said you're gonna get what you're gonna get, guess what? People are gonna start normalizing. Oh, you know, black women, they're gonna give you what they're gonna give you. That would just become the norm.
I know that you like to oversimplify things. That was a big oversimplification.
I'm just saying we create a new culture about what people expect around us. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if I'm the only person who's doing it, then it looks like I'm the only person who's doing it.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing it and Crystle's doing it and Missy's doing it and Tony's doing it, it becomes more normalized, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Absolutely. You didn't get my little jokey joke. I know I'm not that funny.
Oh, I must tell. Okay, you could tell me afterwards what I didn't connect.
Well, I have loved my time with you, and I know we're going to talk for a few more minutes after we close the live. But thank you to everyone who joined us on the episode tonight as we talked about decolonizing your life as liberation. I'll see you again next Thursday
With
uh,
Brittany.
with Brittany.
Oh, also, even though we couldn't hear y'all like some of the wind, y'all was that thing was singing. Y'all was looking gold and brown and luscious. I was hit for it. I was so sad that I missed the first part, so I'm so glad I get to see the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll incorporate the liberated love notes again as we did during that session because they are much needed affirmations for
Especially
people for sure. Yep. All right, y'all. Well, have a good night. I'll see you next week.